Shortly after Angola became independent from Portugal in 1975, civil war broke out. The war lasted for more than 25 years. One of the fighting groups, called UNITA, had soldiers stationed to the south of Bongo Mission Hospital. A rival faction had soldiers to the north. Bongo Mission was caught in the middle.
It sounded for the world that the mission had been completely destroyed by multiple groups of marauding troops. We did not believe that we would ever see Bongo rise again.
Y entonces me acosté, dormí, de repente me desperté con tiroteos intenso, tiroteo intenso. Y de repente, ¡pum!, se me hizo claro en la mente, es la UNITA, y vienen a buscarme.
In the first half of the 20th century, 100 years ago, missionaries established 25 hospitals for the Adventist Church across Africa. Most of our 25 hospitals are bush hospitals, as we call them, end-of-the-road hospitals, hospitals that are out in the villages.
The church had decided to open the work in Angola, and they asked my grandfather, James, and grandmother, Annie Baker, if they would go to Angola, and they accepted the call and traveled by ship from South Africa to Libido Bay. They got on the train looking for some property land where they could establish a mission.
While on the train, a regional governor overheard the Bakers talking about their work.
And he wanted to have the Adventist mission in his territory. So he says, why won't you just establish a mission in my area? And they said, well, we're not really looking in your area. We're looking a little further east. He said, well, if you change your mind, let me know.
Not finding what they were looking for further east, the Bakers ended up going back to the regional governor. He showed them a property called Bongo.
And they said, this looks really great. And so they traveled to Luanda and met the Governor General.
The Governor General agreed to give land to the Bakers, and in 1924, the first Seventh-day Adventist mission in Angola was established at Bongo.
And so the first thing they did was start a treatment room, not actually a hospital to begin with, but a treatment room. And my grandmother, who was a registered nurse, ran the treatment room. And then they proceeded to build the church and build the school. And then along the way, they built quite a few different things so that the mission became self-sustaining and prospered.
And this used to be a thriving hospital. Up until the mid-70s, this was one of the best hospitals in the country. Angola has a somewhat tragic history. Started with the war for independence from Portugal in the mid-70s, but then quickly morphed into a struggle of ideological control of the country that went into a civil war for 25 years, a bloody civil war that destroyed much of the country. Similar to what happened in other countries in Africa, certainly Rwanda during the genocide and Mozambique during their civil war, many of the professionals left Angola during the civil war.
Siempre desde que era pequeña quise ser una enfermera, misionera. Mi sueño era ir al Amazonas. Nunca pensé en venir a África. Me encontré con una persona responsable de la división euroafricana y hablé con él y le pregunté qué posibilidades había de ir al campo misionero. 3 días después recibí una carta invitándome a venir a Angola. Yo acepté inmediatamente.
Civil war was raging in Angola. Victoria was asked if she would go work at Bongo Mission Hospital.
Que mi entusiasmo era tan grande que no me importó mucho que hubiera una guerra. Yo lo que quería era servir al Señor en el campo misionero, con guerra o sin guerra. Una revista donde se contaba toda la historia de la guerra civil de Angola. Y había un mapa de Angola con la línea divisoria entre los dos grupos que combatían entre sí. Y mirando en detalles vi que la línea pasaba exactamente donde debería estar la misión. Y entonces me preocupé un poco. Efectivamente, cuando llegué aquí, la línea divisoria entre los dos grupos pasaba exactamente aquí, en el Bongo. Cuando llegué acá a la misión, lo primero que vi fue soldados por todas partes, con sus armas. Recibíamos pacientes heridos por la guerra.
During the night, soldiers would bury landmines along the road near Bongo. The next day, civilians would not know where those landmines were.
Explotaba y volaban las piernas, volaban los cuerpos. Y nos traían aquí a nosotros los heridos con las piernas amputadas. Era muy intenso, muy duro, muy duro. El comienzo fue muy difícil. Adaptarse a todo eso, ver esos cuerpos despedazados, era cosa muy difícil de soportar.
One of the groups fighting on the front lines at Bongo was called UNITA. In an attempt to weaken their enemies' ties with foreign governments, UNITA began kidnapping foreign nationals.
Y sabíamos que la UNITA capturaba gente. Y yo tenía muchísimo miedo de que eso me sucediera alguna vez. Y entonces me acosté, dormí, de repente me desperté con tiroteos intenso, tiroteo intenso. Se abre, que un grupo de soldados viene, golpean con fuerza, la puerta se abre y los soldados entran dentro del hospital. Yo pensé, son soldados que están trayendo algún herido. Después me di cuenta que la manera de actuar de esos soldados, la manera como se movían, las actitudes, la rapidez de los movimientos, no era igual que los soldados que teníamos la costumbre de ver. Y de repente, ¡pum!, se me hizo claro en la mente, es la UNITA, y vienen a buscarme. Nunca me pasó por la cabeza la idea de huir. Solo lloraba, Señor, por favor, ayúdame a saber lo que tengo que hacer y cómo tengo que decir cuando vengan. Y de repente escucho golpear a mi ventana. Cuando miro, había 30, 40 soldados allí, todos alrededor de la ventana, y empezaron a llamar, enfermera, enfermera, abra la puerta, enfermera, enfermera, abra la puerta.
Victoria did not open her door to the soldiers. She told them she had to stay and take care of the mission. She was trying to stall them, trying to think of a way out of the situation. Then the soldiers told her that they had already kidnapped the mission's doctor and his family, as well as a Brazilian family working at the mission. Both families had young babies.
2 familias con bebés pequeños en las manos de la UNITA. Entonces yo dije, tengo que ir, ellos me necesitan. Entonces yo fui, abrí la puerta, le dije, aquí estoy pronta para ir. Y entonces ellos miraron que yo tenía sandalias en los pies. Y dice, enfermera, tiene que ponerse buenos zapatos porque vamos a caminar. Cuando pasamos por el hospital, estaban las puertas abiertas, pasamos por la farmacia, estaban las ventanas rotas. Todo el trabajo que hicimos se terminó. Luego dimos la vuelta, empezamos a subir la montaña, esas montañas. Empezamos a subir la montaña y de pronto yo me vuelvo y veo fuego que sube de aquí, de la misión. Y bueno, ahí fue el momento en que yo dije, todo está perdido. Y ahí comenzó la jornada. Una jornada que duró 35 días a pie, caminando. 5 días en camión, militar y 3 meses con ellos en cautividad. Creo que yo siempre pensé que íbamos a sobrevivir. Nunca tuve miedo de morir.
After 3 months of captivity, Victoria and the 2 other families regained their freedom by crossing the southern border and going into Namibia. For their own safety, they did not return to Angola, and they did not know if Bongo Mission was destroyed.
It sounded for the world that the mission had been completely destroyed.
The rebels came in here and basically everybody had to leave. Some of the national nurses tried to keep the hospital going for some years, but even they finally had to leave. And when you have an abandoned facility, then it gets vandalized and things happen.
We did not believe that we would ever see Bongo rise again.
After escaping captivity, Victoria's life continued. She married and had children, but Bongo Mission and the people of Angola never left her thoughts.
Los angolanos son personas muy queridas, muy amorosas. Y toda mi vida pensé en Bongo y en volver algún día. Y bueno, cuando mis hijos fueron grandes, que ya no necesitaban más de nosotros, con mi esposo decidimos hacer la aventura de volver.
Victoria and her husband Juan returned to Bongo. She is now chief nurse and administrator of the hospital.
Volver a este lugar después de la guerra, encontrarme con los sobrevivientes, fue mucha emoción y mucha alegría y una gran experiencia en mi vida. Y Bongo está aquí. Entonces aquí la línea marcaba de este lado dominio del gobierno de Luanda y de aquí para abajo controlado por la UNITA.
Esta es la bandera de Portugal, de mi país, donde yo nací. Bandera de Argentina y bandera de Portugal.
Aquí tenemos una foto más actualizada de la familia. Joel, Gabriel, Jessica, su esposo y la bebé Mía, que ahora ya es más grande, tiene 2 años.
In the summer of 2018, Loma Linda University sponsored a trip to Bongo Mission.
It's always been my dream to see the mission that my grandfather and grandmother started. Then I got the invitation to come and I jumped at the chance. As we drove up to Bongo Mission, on both sides of the truck were women of the villages who were singing songs of greeting. And then we met Victoria, and she was the one who led the greeting and put together this reception. And we knew that she was the one who had been here, who had endured through this time. And here she was greeting us and welcoming us back. Overwhelmed.
Victoria and Juan, they bring a passion that is absolutely essential in a place like this. It's not just Victoria's own story of being kidnapped and being freed again. It's the story of this place can succeed. She doesn't know the word impossible. She looks at everything and says, man, we can make this happen.
El hospital en la área rural es importante para dar apoyo a las comunidades rurales que no tienen otro lugar donde tratarse.
She's bringing things back. Volunteers have come, many volunteers from Europe, from the U.S., from South America. Volunteers have donated money, so one by one they've been rehabilitating the buildings. As I walk through much of this now, there's new tile on the floor, there's new paint on the walls. The clinical lab is working. They've got a successful laboratory here now. They've got a portable x-ray. They've got basic equipment. So the clinical facilities are starting to come back, and that's largely because of Victoria's faith and commitment. it will need a lot of money to rehabilitate the buildings. The capital expenses need to be brought in from the outside. But we want to keep it sustainable because despite the fact that we were in villages, these people have enough means, they value the reputation of this hospital, so they come here and are willing to pay to be seen.
El futuro del bongo es una gran pregunta. Si estudiamos la realidad de Angola y hacemos aquí aquello que nadie hace a bajo costo, el hospital podría ser una luz y un testimonio en este país, como fue en el pasado.